Hallo Klasse 8. I hope you all had a good half term. Before half term, we looked at Familie, family members in German. Today's lesson is looking at Geschwister, or siblings, in a bit more detail. So the word Geschwister, siblings, is used a lot in German. They don't actually say in German, do you have any brothers or sisters? They would actually just say, do you have any siblings, or have you siblings? Hast du Geschwister? And I think that really sums up a lot about German kind of culture and a lot about the German language and how scientific it is and how kind of technical it is, that they just use that one word for it because it's the most efficient way to ask the question, which I think is quite cool. So just a reminder as well, halb and stief are used, they sort of add on to the word Bruder or Schwester, halb meaning half or stief meaning step. So if you do have a half brother or sister or sibling or a step sibling, then you can just add that to the start of the word brother or sister, okay? And that's actually known as a compound noun, and there's lots of those in German where they kind of just put words together to make longer words. Okay. So to ask if you've got any siblings, you would need to say in German, hast du Geschwister? Okay, hast du Geschwister literally means, have you siblings, as I went through earlier on. And there's a really easy way to answer this question, just using a word. And we're obviously going to go into a bit more detail in this lesson than just using this word, but it's kind of handy to know as well. All right, if you have got a sibling, you could just say ja. Ja is yes. So J-A, ja, that's it. You could just say ja. And if you don't, you could say nein, which is no. Okay, so ja, nein. You might well have seen them. I know we've touched on them briefly in some other lessons, but there they are, ja and nein. And another example, actually, I think, of a brilliant German word is sometimes you can kind of mix these words together. And if you kind of mean yeah and no, then you can just say jein, which I think is lovely. So maybe if you kind of want to agree with somebody but also not agree with them, or maybe you might sort of start thinking, yeah, maybe I agree with this person, and then think no, you could, instead of just saying yeah or nein, you could just say jein. Okay. So if we look at the more detailed answers to these questions then, and you're going to want to use the more detailed answers to these because it is showing off a bit more German. Okay, so hast du Geschwister? Have you got any siblings? One answer for this: Ich habe einen Bruder. I have got one brother, or literally, I have a brother. Okay, there's an en on the end of the word ein there. It's because it's a masculine word. Okay, so ich habe einen Bruder. I have a brother. If you've got a sister, ich habe eine Schwester. So I have a sister. Ich habe eine Schwester. If you've got a brother and a sister, ich habe eine Schwester und einen Bruder. So they're sort of interchangeable. You could have brother before sister, and it's totally fine either way. And if you have two sisters, you would say ich habe zwei Schwestern. Okay, and so you need to add an N there to the word Schwester to make it plural. And this would apply if you've got 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 sisters. Okay, and so you add that N there, and that lets everyone know that you're saying sisters, not sister. For brothers then, to say you've got 2 or more brothers, so the plural word for brother, you don't need to now add an S on the end or an N on the end, which is usually quite common for German. You actually need to put an umlaut onto that U that we have usually for Bruder, okay? And it slightly changes the sound of the word Bruder. It makes it more of a kind of like an U sound. And that's it there, and that shows that you've got more than one. That's the plural way of saying brothers. And don't worry hugely if you don't pronounce it that differently when you're saying it, that's fine. But when you write it, it's really important that if you're talking about more than one brother, that just like in English we write brothers and we'd have the S on the end, in German you'd need to add that umlaut there. Oh, and that's the brother, there we go. Oh no, 2 brothers. There we go. So If you don't have any siblings and you're an only child, that's what you need to say. Ich bin Einzelkind. Literally, I am only child. Okay? So the Einzelkind needs to have a capital letter there. Einzelkind. It's a noun, so only child. It's a thing, I guess, a thing that you are. And ich bin is I am. So whereas before then we've been saying ich habe, I have. If you are an only child, you would just say I am. And the same kind of thing happens for sister, okay? So ich habe eine Schwester is I have a sister. And if you want to say I don't have a sister or I have no sister, we just, again, have to add a K there. So that then becomes ich habe keine Schwester. Okay, I think it's quite a neat, I guess, once again, efficient way of using the language there, just kind of adding that one letter to completely make your sentence negative. All right, so vocab then in your booklets, it says here words to learn, but you don't have to learn all of these words at all. If you could make sure that you're familiar with the plural way to say brothers and sisters and just look at these and kind of try and recognize them, that's kind of all you need to do, okay? So let's have a look at these tasks then. Task A asks you, hast du Geschwister? Do you have any siblings? So you need to write your own answer here. If you do have siblings, you're going to want to start that with ja, ich habe, so yes, I have, and then give a bit more detail. So I would write, for example, ja, ich habe 6 Schwestern. If you don't have any siblings, then your answer is pretty much just summed up for you there on the screen. So, nein, ich bin Einzelkind. No, I am an only child. Okay, if you want to pause this now and write your own answer in, and then press play again when you're ready to go on to the next task. All right, so task B is a listening, and because sometimes the quality of when I'm trying to record the listening, it doesn't come out that well, I'm going to say the different sentences. So it's not brilliant, but it's better than nothing. Okay, so you need to write down what siblings these people say they have, or what siblings I say I have for each of the 7 questions. Okay. You can write your answer in English, and you can see the example is written for you in English as well. You obviously don't have to write in full sentences or anything. It's totally fine. Okay, so Nummer 1, ich bin Einzelkind. And a second time, Nummer 1, ich bin Einzelkind. And we can see that the answer is only child, so that one's done for us. Nummer 2, ich habe eine Schwester. Und noch einmal, again, ich habe eine Schwester. Nummer 3, ich habe 3 Brüder. Noch einmal, again, ich habe 3 Brüder. Nummer 4, ich habe einen Bruder und eine Schwester. And again, ich habe einen Bruder und eine Schwester. Nummer 5, ich bin Einzelkind. And again, ich bin Einzelkind. Nummer 6, ich habe einen Halbbruder und 2 Schwestern. And again, ich habe einen Halbbruder und 2 Schwestern. Und Nummer 7, ich habe 2 Stiefschwestern. And again, ich habe 2 Stiefschwestern. Sounds a bit like a tongue twister, doesn't it? Okay, we're going to go through the answers now, so just check them and tick them as you go. Or cross them and correct them if you need to. Okay, so Nummer 1 was done for us. Nummer 2 was 1 sister. Nummer 3, 3 brothers. Nummer 4, 1 brother, 1 sister. Nummer 5, repeated from question 1, was only child. Nummer 6, 1 half brother and 2 sisters. And nummer 7, 2 stepsisters. All right, then the next task, task C, it says use the text to fill in the table in English on the next page. It's actually all on the same screen here for you. So you need to read through the information and fill in the table. I'm just going to run through what the columns mean. All right, so the first column says wer. Wer is actually who. So who is it? And for this one, you kind of need to write in the family relationships. You can see the example there for B is sister. Then we have the word Name. I mean, it looks suspiciously like an English word that we know. So that's where you need to write the person's name. Then we have Alter. So we've seen alt before. Alter actually just means age. Alt meaning old. And details. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? So you need to give any details about whatever is mentioned about that particular person. Okay, so if we do the first one together, and then you can pause the video and complete the task, and then I'll run through the answers. So it starts off by saying, Hallo, ich heiße Sabine und ich bin 16 Jahre alt. All right. It then goes on to say, ich wohne in Zürich in der Schweiz. So there we are. That's shoddy highlighting, sorry. So that is, the first 2 have been filled in for us. So it's me, or the person talking. The name is Sabine. The Alter, the age, is 16, so 16. And details, it actually says there that she lives in Zurich in Switzerland. So I've just put there, lives in Switzerland. Okay. And so if you want to pause it now, then I'll go through the rest of the answers. All right then, so B was a sister. The name is Lulu, and she's 12. And it actually says there, sie trinkt viel Cola. So if you'd even just written the word cola there, that would have been fine. It actually means she drinks lots of cola, which is a bit random, but there we are. Just having cola there would give you a mark, so that's all you need. And C, we don't know who the relation is, what his name is, or how old he is, but it does say somebody is really stupid. And so we need to look for a word that looks kind of like stupid. It's actually this word here. I love this word. I think it's so nice. It's super doof. And so it's talking about this person here, okay? And it is her brother. So we've got brother, Zaki, and he's 13. Next, then we need to look for Annabelle, okay? And there she is as a Halbschwester, half-sister. Sie ist 4 Jahre alt, she's 4 years old. And it actually says there, ich finde sie prima, I find her great. And it also says, sie hat lange, lockige, blonde Haare. She has long, curly blonde hair und graue Augen and grey eyes. So any one of those details will get you the mark. And then the last person we know is only 1 year old, okay, and it's the last person to be mentioned as well. So that there is Sabina's half brother, and he is called Max. And what does it say about him? It says ist toll. Toll is another word for like prima, which is great. So you could have had he's great, but we haven't covered that word, so I'm not really expecting you to have that one. The other option is braune Augen, so he's got brown eyes. So any of those, either of those would be fine. Okay. And this is our last task for the lesson. You need to read through the information there. It's all about someone called Karen who's talking about her family. And then you need to read the statements underneath and decide whether they are true or false, depending on what the content of the paragraph is. Okay, so I'll go through the first one with you. First one is Ich habe eine Schwester und 3 Brüder. So that is I have 1 sister and 3 brothers. If we look to the text here, we can see actually that it says Ich habe 3 Geschwister. And remember, Geschwister is a sibling. So I have 3 siblings. So that first statement cannot be true. It's false, or falsch, as we'd say in German, which is very similar to the English. All right, just before you pause it to get on with it, some words that you might want to know here. We've got ältere, ältere is older, and we've also got älteste, which is oldest, and we also have the word junger. And junger, I mean, it's so similar to the English there, isn't it, really? It's younger. Okay, so those words might help you as you're doing this. And there are a few other words that hopefully you can kind of just understand from context. All right, if you want to pause it now, and then I'll go through the answers. So, Nummer 2, mein Bruder ist jünger als ich. Literally, my brother is younger than I am, or than I. And that's true, or richtig. That's the word for true in German. It looks a bit like the word right, as in right or wrong in English. So you can still see there's lots of strong ties there between German and English in a lot of the words that we've got here. The next one, meine kleine Schwester ist 12 Jahre alt. My little sister is 12 years old. Das ist richtig, that's true. Ich bin Einzelkind, das ist falsch. Meine jüngere Schwester ist Studentin. My younger sister is a student. And by this word, like student, doesn't really just mean somebody who's in school. Like you'd probably say that in English. Studentin, or the word student if you're a boy, it actually means if you're kind of at university. So that's falsch. Because it does mention that her oldest sister is Studentin, if you see it there. And the next one, mein Bruder ist sportlich. Sportlich, very similar to the German there as well, is sporty, okay. Das ist richtig, that's true, and we see that because it says at the bottom, Michael, or Michael, ist nur 8 und mag Fußball und Schwimmen, okay, and they're both sports. So hopefully you work those out as well. The next one, meine Schwestern heißen Karin und Kerstin. That's falsch, because the person talking is called Karin. Her sisters are called something else. And Nummer 8, Kerstin ist meine jüngere Schwester. Das ist auch falsch. So Kerstin is not her younger sister, it's actually her oldest sister. And finally, meine älteste Schwester geht in die Disco. Das ist richtig, that's correct, that's true. So it does say the same thing there if you look. Meine älteste Schwester Kerstin ist 20 Jahre alt. Sie ist Studentin und sie geht oft in die Disco. Alright, excellent stuff then. So if you've got this far, well done. That's it done for the lesson today. If you want to go on to Quizlet, you can have a little look and revise of some of the vocab. Because once we finish this work in the lesson, we'll be playing some games online and that kind of thing. Alright, and just so you're aware, there will be a writing assessment coming up soon. So I will post details about it on Google Classroom, but I will be mentioning it in the lesson as well. So just so that if you're watching this and you can't attend the lesson, just so you don't feel like you've missed out on anything. Okay, danke schön. Tschüss.